Hello, plant people. It is, at least for me, the most exciting time of the year. At least the first most exciting time of the gardening year, because I guess to be fair, there's a lot of exciting times from here on out. I guess the contrast really is that up until now, which to be clear is around early to mid-March, for growing zone 6B, which is where I grow, up until now, it's been real quiet in the garden. I've shown you some winter interest about what's outside at the moment. I'm starting to see daffodils poke their little shoots out of the ground. Like spring is on the way here. But otherwise, there's just not much to do outside. And also it's still really muddy. So there's not a lot of fun stuff to do outside yet when it comes to the garden. But it is time to start thinking about what seeds I want to start. Versus what seeds, what flowers or plants I want to just wait and buy later. That's a balancing act every year. Growing seeds, to me, the pros of growing seeds are that it's cheap compared to buying whole plants. So money savings is good for starting seeds indoors. And also I feel like there is definitely a self-care aspect to growing seeds indoors, because this time of year, at least here in Michigan, is a little maddening because some days it seems like nothing is happening and nothing is growing and you're really tired of winter. And when you start seeds, you see something new every single day. And that's really important to me for my own heart, to feel like there's progress in my own life towards something really exciting. Seed starting will do that for you. Okay. I guess, there's one third one. Okay, so cost savings, great. Something to stare at while you're waiting for spring to really arrive. That's also great. 3, and this will depend on where you live and what you're looking for, but seeds are a great way to guarantee you get exactly the plants you want when you want them. There are some varieties that won't be at your garden center, or you won't think that they'll have a shortage on them, or that someone else will swoop in and buy them all up before you do. It is a good way to guarantee if there's particular colors or particular varieties that are rare or just really specific. Starting your own seeds is a great way to do that. And that's what I do with my petunias that I'll show you. I like to pick a different color scheme every year, and that means that I want to make sure I have exactly the number of petunias I think I'll need in the colors that I want. Okay, so those are the pros. Again, cost, self-help, specifics, get what you want. The downsides of starting seeds, probably the biggest one is that you probably don't live in a greenhouse. I don't know, maybe you do. That would be pretty cool, but I don't know if you'd be watching this video if you already owned and operated a greenhouse. But it takes a lot of effort and room and supplies to grow consumer quality plants indoors. And a lot of the times, the plants that you will buy at your local garden center have been carefully taken care of well ahead of time of when they arrive in the store. So you will get a plant that is fully established, ready to go. Whereas with seedlings, you might be waiting a bit longer before you get a really filled out, established plant. And the other thing that goes along with that is space and time. Like, you are saving money because you are buying the seed yourself, but you will then spend money buying soil, buying seed flats, buying grow lights, and depending on how much space you have in your living arrangement, you might not be able to grow that many things, or may only be able to grow them to a certain size before they're busting out the door at you. So those are the balances there. So the downsides being, again, oh man, I didn't do them in the same order at this point, but the cost of your supplies, your ability to grow things quickly to the point that you would like them to be well established, and just time. It's going to take you some time and effort to take care of your plants and to pot them up as you go. So those are the balances that I try to draw between the two when it comes to seed starting. I have found this year I am starting fewer seeds than normal, I don't know. I've had years where I've had like flats and flats and flats and flats of seeds, but this year it's actually not that much, but it's exactly what I know I want. And actually I'm holding back a lot of seeds to wait and just sow them outside when the weather's warm enough. Because honestly, while you do buy yourself some time starting things indoors, they will grow a lot of varieties will grow much faster once they get full spectrum sunlight and warm days and nights outside. So we'll talk more about which is going where, because I feel like I've talked a lot already. But I'm just really excited, and I wanted to tell you about like the overall thoughts I have. This is probably gonna be a long video too, because it started as just a seed starting video, and then I ended up not having time to put out the videos, so I ended up taking like update photos and videos of how things are going. And so by now, like I said, it's been like 2 weeks since I started these seedlings, and they're looking adorable and great. So hang on tight. Before you know it, we'll see these little babies all grown up and outside in the garden. All right, let's go check it out. All right, so here is my fancy setup in my house. I have south-facing windows and 2 card tables, taking advantage of each window. I laid out my seeds in a grouping. Originally, they were all living in this little box. As they arrived in the mail, I just threw them in there. So, okay, like I said, I organized them a little bit. I've got these seeds that are going to be kind of, like there's the herbs that I picked out. You just saw the tomatoes and then some of the warm weather crops. I've got this salvia big blue that I want to try this year. My petunias. And some fancy coleus, behind which there is my entire envelope of collected coleus seeds from last year. Something new I want to try, some agastache, or agastache? I don't know, new for me. Marigolds by the like truckload. Some that I collected last year in that white envelope, but some I ordered as well. Here we've got dichondra silver falls. This is a big experiment for me this year that I'm excited about. Then lots and lots of petunias. I'm showing you the Tidal Wave Silver Hybrid, the Opera Supreme Raspberry Ice, which looked so pretty. I'm excited about that. And I bought a lot of it because I need to do a lot. Okay, so I kind of grouped my seed packets in order, but wait. I don't plan on starting all these seeds indoors. Like the marigolds I'm picking up there, those are all going back in the seed bin. It's a real fancy system. Next up, the agastache, I'm not so sure I want to start those, or the celosia, so I'm putting that back in. The coleus I do want to start indoors, so I'll keep those out. The petunias I definitely want to keep. Dichondra Silver Falls as well. We're going to start from seed, as well as all of these petunias. It's a lot. And the salvia I'd like to try. The herbs, I'm going to wait and just grow them outside. I've had plenty of luck just starting them outdoors when the time is right. Now, the pole beans and the sweet peas and nasturtium, they definitely prefer to get started outside, so in the box they go. Now I have a lot fewer seeds to try to think about, which is much better. To try to calculate how many of each of these seeds I'm going to grow and in what arrangement, that's what's coming next. See right here, I'm starting to count how many seeds are in each packet, because there's still... All right, math alert. I, at this point, have added up all of the cells in my seed starting mats and know that I have 200 cells available. But I had a lot more seeds in my packets than I actually needed. So this is me starting to go through and whittle down exactly how many plants I think I actually need. So you can see I want all the petunias I can get because I know that I have plant bags that are going to need 55 petunias. So, you know, growing that many is a good idea. For hanging baskets, I know I need 9 dichondra, so I don't actually need to grow 40. Let's bring it down to 20. Same with the silver tidal petunias. I think I only need about 10. So we're starting to whittle it down. I have 20 coleus exhibition. I'm going to grow them all. Okay, so I know how many seeds I need, plants I need, when I count it up, it's 150. I have some room to spare, so I can add back a little bit to make a little more sense here. So I tried to either organize things by orders of 10 because there's 5 in a row, or where possible, just make it 25 because that's how many cells are in one flat. And it's just easier if they're all the same thing. So where I could, I adjusted to 25, and that meant bumping up some from like 20 to 25 or 10 to 25. And yeah, I was able to throw in 5 agastache. That's great. And then counting up my flats, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I got 8 cells. All the flats are 8 flats. They're all taken care of. Hooray! All right, it's time to start planting. We're going to also be planting up the geraniums that I overwintered in another video. Yes, my potting soil, I use seed starting potting soil to grow everything. And I always have my trusty dusty stainless steel bowl and a lot of water because we need to moisten our soil before we plant anything. Now, this, my friends, this is my favorite moment coming up all season long. And that's when I finally get to put my hands in some soil and mix it up. Something small that I wait for every single year and really look forward to. You might even spot Harley peeking in on the action. But it's going to get messy, so fair warning, if you're going to do this, be ready to do some sweeping afterwards, wherever you are in your house. All right, and I got my pots for my geraniums as well. And so here we go. We're going to take some soil, put it in the bowl. I know this is a very, very complicated series of maneuvers. Not really. I just put as much as I can in the bowl and then add water. Remember, it's easier to add more water than it is to add more soil because you want to get to a consistency that's wet but not too wet. But anyway, this is it. Aha. That's it. Favorite moment at the start of the season is getting your hands in some dirt. I think all my gardeners out there can relate. That's just the best. Okay, so we're mixing up that soil, making sure it's the right consistency. Might need to add a little more water depending on it. You want the soil to be just moist enough to get started. Yep, so added just a little bit more here. Because if you try to add soil on top of seeds, it tends to wash the tiny seeds away. So that's why we moisten the soil to begin with. It's just easier than trying to pour water on top of them. Okay, that's looking really good. It's got a bit of a clumping to it, but it's not muddy. I know, the adjectives are the best here. But yeah, seriously, this is what we do to get started. And like I said, favorite point in the growing season is getting to play in the dirt for the first time in the new year. Okay, so then yeah, pick up a couple. Ta-da! Beautiful hands for gardening. All right, so now we're going to take my geraniums that I overwintered. And I'm just checking the stems here to see, look at that, we got leaves. We have leaves that survive the entire year. But what I'm doing is I'm checking the stems to feel for any like mushy spots. They are going to be a little dehydrated, but I want to make sure if I have any that are really pruny that I prune them off. Because that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to just stick them in the ground in the potting soil like this. I'm going to actually prune them down a little bit so they're all a regular height. So let's see. Let me get my clippers going. I think that's what we're going for at this point. Forgive my camera work. Oh yeah, I'm showing you here like just where some of the drier ends are. There we go. Trusty dusty clippers, not dusty, but you can see how the branches are, and eventually I'll get it in front of the camera, but I'm just pruning off the ends wherever anything seems dead, but leaving a lot of stem left as well to support the growth of the plant. And I mean, this is amazing. I grew these, I bought these from the gardening center last season, had them on my porch the entire summer and into fall. And then there's a whole nother video where I store these guys down. And it's kind of amazing that aside from spraying the roots a couple times with water over winter, I didn't really do much with them. Besides just keeping them in a cool, dry location and giving them a little bit of water. And it just blows my mind that some of them still had green leaves on them. Okay, so that's about an example of how far down I'm pruning them. Again, I want to keep some stems. I got my roots there. It's a good looking plant. All right, magic has happened and I've pruned all 6 of my geraniums that I stored over winter. Yeah, they're looking good. You can see there's kind of a variety I'm noticing between super green and some, these are very like pruny. Like I said, very dehydrated, but it's got a green leaf on it. I think it's going to be fine. And there we go. They are ready to get into the potting soil. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to keep these in big containers. It's something that we'll talk about with seed starting. You can start with smaller containers and have more space. Can grow more plants in a smaller space, but they will need to be potted up because they're going to grow big and strong and run out of room. With the geraniums, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to pot them in the size pots that I expect them to live in until I move them outside. Again, that's a choice. You could start any of these plants and seeds in smaller containers and pot them up, but for these guys, I just wanted them to be all set. So all I'm doing is filling in the soil around the roots, kind of gently tucking the roots in, because as you can see, there were still a ton of roots left. Yeah, compacting the soil a little bit too, just because you don't want a lot of air bubbles around your roots. Making a little hole for them. First one's always the trickiest, right? But yeah, I'm holding it so I can kind of fill in the soil gently around the roots. And I'm going to try to pot the soil up to the root crown, like covering the root crown so that you can just see the stems. I don't need to fill the pot all the way up to the top. In fact, that would be silly because then when you go to water them, the water would just spill out the sides if the soil went all the way up to the top. So I'm saving soil, but I'm also making watering a lot easier for the weeks ahead. And then I'm just pushing it down gently, just tucking in this little geranium to make sure, again, there aren't many air pockets around the roots. Not a super stressful thing to worry too much about. Just give it a little pat. There you go. So that's 1 down, 5 more to go. All right. And they are all set. Look at those pretty babies. 6 geraniums, all ready to go for the next growing season. All right, next up, I want to grow my coleus seeds in this flat. I have found that it's a lot easier to just have a lot of flat growing space, so I filled them up, ta-da, almost to the top, but again, leaving some room for watering. And this is where it's going to get fun. These are my coleus seeds that I collected from my plants last year. They're just in an envelope. I don't know why I'm showing you the water there. I think I'm doing some fancy cinematography here. Oh, I'm just making room. Okay, because this is where it's going to get interesting, folks. And I wanted to make sure I had the camera so that I could show you what I was trying to do. All right, so we got this big envelope that I taped shut because the coleus seeds are actually really tiny. But what you're seeing there are the stems of the flowers and the dried flowers. There's actually the coleus seeds. I'm going to try to get them. I'm going to try to move the dried blossoms around so that you can see the coleus, but it was really hard to do. You're looking for those, yeah, you see those things that look like poppy seeds, tiny little black specks? Those are the coleus seeds. All that other stuff is just basically chaff. But this is where perfectionists may want to look away. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just crushing up the flowers. You could filter these out. I've seen people do all kinds of stuff to get just to the seeds, but I don't really care. Because for me, having the dried flowers doesn't hurt anything. And that way I don't have to fuss with trying to separate everything, the seeds from the dried flowers. So I just crush it all up into a kind of mulch. Again, this is hard to capture on camera, but then I'm just going to pour it in my hand. Oh boy, I know, this looks wild. Perfectionists, look away. All I'm doing is just gently sprinkling it across all of the seed flat. Yeah, it's going to be a thickly planted set of seeds. And that's something that down the line, I'm going to have to thin out these seedlings once they start to grow. But I'll deal with that another day. I've dealt with it before. This is not my first time growing coleus seeds. seedlings, so not a biggie. Okay, there we go. Again, going back in, sprinkling more seeds, just trying to be even about it. But not stressing it too much. And what's fun is the further along I went in this process, the fewer dried blossoms I had and the more just seeds I had. Now, I wish that cinematographer Amber would have done a better job of actually showing you what I'm doing. I feel like the camera got a little out of focus, but that's okay. There we go. So you can see, now you can start to really see the coleus seeds that were left after all those flowers, dried flowers, were cleared out. So again, just kind of sprinkling them around. I'm not being too precise or precious about it because I know that they'll be just fine, and I will definitely be thinning them out later. Da-da-da-da! And voila! Yeah, a lot of dust. Yeah. I also had some seeds left between my fingers, so this is me just trying to get as many seeds as I possibly can. And then I went and looked in the envelope and was like, oh, there's even more seeds in there. Again, just trying to show you. Oh, friends, thank you for your patience on this one. Just adding, again, like I'm just throwing as many as I can get in here. Yep, look at that. There's still plenty left. And we're going to give them all a chance to do their thing. Seeds. Okay. Let's see what else we can do. I feel like we're getting close to the end of that one. Oh, yes, one last thing. Like I said earlier, we moisten the soil because we don't want to pour a bunch of water on top of these seed flats because the seeds will just wash away. But I did want the coleus seeds to get a little bit of extra moisture with all that dried flower. Those dried flowers, I just figured it would be good to come in with a spray bottle and just mist the top of them. Again, just to give them a little kick in the pants, a little water to get started. That's all I'm doing here. Again, I would not pour water directly on top of these right now. And in fact, I'm not going to do that probably the whole time I'm growing them. I'll actually water them from underneath. Then I put a lid on top to help keep the moisture in. That'll also help the plants be a lot warmer. That greenhouse effect actually is great. Okay, now we come to my other seed flats that are using peat pellets, which I have since learned are environmentally not sustainable. So eventually I'm going to explore doing seed pellets that are not made of peat. But anyway, they're really easy to use. I've used them before with great success. And I just find that it's a lot easier to transplant these plants when they're in these little pods. I'm not sure why you're at a camera right now. Amber, what were you doing? What is happening? Okay. So what I'm doing now is I've already soaked these all in water as per the instructions on the package for these peat pellets. And they're wrapped in a little bit of fabric. And what I like to do is just spread out the fabric away from the center so that I have more surface area to put a seed in. And just kind of like rearranging, flattening out the soil, or the peat in this case, just to make a better surface for starting my seeds. Okay, and we're just going to speed up this process because as thrilling as this is, let's get to the good stuff. All right, I use masking tape and a Sharpie to label my seed flats because I'm not amazing enough to remember what everything is, just magically. Pro tip, I make a little fold on the end with my tape so that it's easier to peel these off after the growing season. I learned that in the lab, the microbiology lab, but it sure works in the plant lab here as well. And then I'm just going to label, for example, this one is going to be Petunia. I think it's Cascade. I think that's what we're writing. Yeah, Cascade White. Okay, so I label it with what it is, and then what I'm going to do is just put it on the side, one side of each flat. And that just makes it real clear what everything is. Yeah, there we go, Amber. Yeah, voila. And we'll do that with every single one of these flats as we go to help remember what everything is. Okay, so yeah, Petunia. This is a Petunia Super Cascade White Hybrid. My plan is to put these out on my front my front garden, like in front of the porch, these end up spreading out into, at least I'm hoping they will. Normally I buy Proven Winners Super Petunia Vista Snowdrift. Look how tiny these seeds are. These are not pelleted, and man, I'm telling you, when it comes to petunia seeds, I would recommend getting them pelleted if you can. But just for reference, those were unpelleted seeds. They're tiny, just like the coleus seeds were, which makes them kind of difficult to actually like separate. Yeah, once again, these are real tiny, and ideally I'd only want to put one seed in each one of these cells. But it's a little difficult when you have them so tiny. But again, all I'm doing right now is trying to get just one in each cell. I'm not trying to push it in or like hide it with soil. Actually, a lot of seeds prefer to not be too deeply planted. I follow whatever the instructions on the envelope tell me to do. So this is just me doing my best, trying to plant these darn petunias. All right, we're going to speed up this process again because it's not that thrilling, at least not in hindsight. All right, that one's all planted. I'm going to put its fancy little dome on top. Again, holds in the moisture, keeps the seeds kind of warm through just the solar power. Anyway, woo! How do we go so fast? All right, next up, we're doing the Petunia Cappuccino hybrid. We have 15 pelleted seeds. Like, I wanted to make sure to give you some contrast because, again, if you have the option to get pelleted seeds for tiny seeds like petunias, I recommend it. Look at that. See, that's a lot easier to see. And this time they come in this cute little tube. Ta-da! There they are. They're still not really big. And that's it. It's the same process for all the rest of the pellets, so I'm just showing you all of the seeds, all the seed flats I planted this year, and my geranium babies. That was it. And here, I guess I decided to do it via video, but again, just giving you a sense of what my seedlings looked like 2 weeks ago. Later, check it out. The geraniums they've filled out, the stems have, and you can see the little green leaves coming out. And the existing green leaves that we had at the beginning are looking very lush and happy. So they are all looking good to go. And here's some of my, this is the coleus, as well as 2 rows of agastache there in the corner. Or 1 row. And then here, that's not so great. That's my salvia and tomatoes, but I'm not seeing a lot of germination there. We'll keep an eye on that. Tomatoes like warm weather, so they might not be warm enough yet. I'll have to keep an eye on that. You don't get it all right. And then here are the unpalated petunia seeds. You can see where I've got some triple growths or double plantings. That's just how it goes when it's hard to see the seeds. And then over here are the pelleted seeds. You can see I did a much better job of having just 1 seed, and I've got a pretty darn good germination rate going on. It's going to be the same. Oh, back here are my dichondra, Silver Falls. Now I'm really excited about this because the plants at the garden center are really expensive. So if I can grow them from seed, because I need at least 9 of them, I can save a fair amount of money. All right, and then over here, I'm just showing you some more of the petunias. Again, they're very tiny to start with, but they will fill out. And then here, my crowning glory, my messily planted coleus flat. You can see there's going to be a lot of thinning out to do, but they are looking super healthy and happy. I'm super excited to see what colors they end up being, but for right now, they are just green. All right, so that's where we are right now in the seed starting journey for 2022. Amber style. Again, you've got to learn what works best for you as far as how many plants you want to grow, how focused you want to be on keeping them happy and well lit. It's all up to you, but I really wanted to share my process. This is something that every year I try to get a little bit better at getting a process that's easy for me to do, and productive enough that it's worth the effort. Because some years I've had some duds. I think, what were they? Begonias, I think. Was it begonias? Impatiens. Oh gosh, sorry guys. Like, sorry begonia people. I don't want to don't want to make you mad. But impatiens would be the one last year that my mom and I both tried, and it did not pan out. Snapdragons. I need to drink more coffee. Would be another one that I haven't had luck with as well, starting from seed, but that's just how it goes for me. Anyway, stay tuned because we will have more, I'm gonna have more and more updates of the garden, both the seedlings inside when they get a little bigger and we might need to repot them to give them a little more room to grow, but also getting ready outside. It's almost time to start moving out some of the leaf mulch so that I can see the plants that are growing underneath. But for that, I am purposefully lazy because I want all the insects and other creatures that have larvae and eggs hanging out in the leaf litter to have as much time as they need to wake up and get out there. So that's where being lazy pays off for Mother Nature. Anyway, stay tuned. Lots of good stuff ahead. We're really getting into the exciting part of the year. If you like this video, please like and subscribe so that you can stay as up to date as humanly possible. And let's see, as far as my question for you all today, tell me about, for all of you who have started seeds, let me know what's your favorite thing to start from seed, but also what was the thing that like totally bombed out that you never want to bother doing again. There's a lot to learn from our victories and from our defeats when it comes to gardening. Anyway, take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.